Hello my fellow kaiju fans, I'm Godzilla Guy G, and welcome back to the Tripel-G-Cast. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing the Godzilla Showa era with Mothra vs. Godzilla. Now this movie is often, or at least, very least from my experience, seems to be considered one of the best Showa era Godzilla films. Now, I've only watched this movie once, and from what I remember, I liked it, but I didn't think it was like amazing like a lot of other people do. However, now I have rewatched it, and have my opinions changed at all? And do I now see it for the masterpiece that it is? Well, let's find out. But before we do that, I just want to mention, like I always do, spoilers for the movie. You've probably already seen it, but just in the case that you haven't, you have been warned. There will be spoilers, probably, in this video. So yeah, there's your warning. Anyways, before we get into my thoughts on the movie, let's first go over some information. So, Muffer vs. Godzilla came out in 1964 and is directed by the legend himself, Ishiro Honda. The cast includes Akira Takarada, Yoriko Hoshi, Hiroshi Koizumi, Yu Fujiki, and Kenji Sahara, among others. And as always, sorry if I butchered any of those names. And finally, the movie has a runtime of 89 minutes. Now for a quick plot synopsis from Letterboxd. Journalists Ichiro Sakai and Junko cover the wreckage of a typhoon when an enormous egg is found and claimed by greedy entrepreneurs. Mothra fairies arrive and are aided by the journalists in a plea for its return. As their requests are denied, Godzilla arises near Nagoya, and the people of Infant Island must decide if they are willing to answer Japan's own pleas for help. Alright, and with that out of the way, let's move on to the stuff that you probably clicked on this video to hear about. My thoughts on the movie. And as usual, I'll go through my 5 bullet points of the story, the characters, the kaiju stuff, the music, and finally, other things I want to talk about. So, let's not waste any more time and jump straight into the story. And the story of this movie is, well, basically that of the original Mothra movie, except with Godzilla added in as well. And I have to say, the story does work well enough. I mean, it's a pretty simple story all around. However, I do like the message about capitalism and greed. It's actually pretty cool, and it's something that you really don't see in a lot of kaiju movies. And I also think it's handled quite well, aside from a bit of dialogue that's a bit on the nose, but that's kind of also expected for a message about greed. It's sometimes just gonna be a little bit obvious, but for the most part I think they handle it quite well. Now, there is one thing about this movie's story that I don't love, and that's how Godzilla is included in it. Because Godzilla feels a little bit forced into the plot of this movie. Like, he just kind of shows up. Like, I get that radiation and test bombing and stuff like that is a part of the movie's story as well, sort of, but he doesn't really fit with the main themes of greed and, you know, leaving giant freaking kaiju eggs alone. I just feel like he's a little bit forced in, which is a true shame, because when he does show up, like I'll talk about later, it is very fun, but he just feels a little bit out of place in this movie, because, again, like I mentioned, this is basically a Mothra movie. So Godzilla just kind of being there, I don't know, I think it could have been included a little bit more smoothly. However, I will give it this, the pacing in this movie is very good. Like, I was never bored while watching this movie. It kept a very good pace throughout, so I'll give it that. So aside from Godzilla feeling a little bit forced in, I overall think that the story of this movie is pretty good. It's a solid enough story on its own, and it has a decent message that's actually handled quite well. So yeah, overall, pretty good. Now, as for the characters, the main characters were alright. Just like in most Godzilla movies. They aren't super deep or complex or anything, but they do have their moments, and they do make watching the human scenes not a drag. Overall, they're fine. And you know what? Sometimes that's enough. Now, the bad guys in this movie, aka the greedy business people, they were also quite one-dimensional, and were pretty much just there to be greedy and antagonistic. However, the actors, for them, seemed to have a lot of fun, so that at the very least made their scenes a lot more entertaining. So I'll give them that, but overall, as characters, yeah, they're just the greedy rich people. What more can I really say? You've seen those kinds of characters in other movies before. And now, as for the Muffer Twins, I'm just kind of going through most of the characters here. I mean, they're like they always are, whimsical and mythical and all that stuff. I mean, they're fine, like they always are. They're interesting, at least. Like, their concept is interesting, so yeah. Now, I have to mention this. The best character in this movie is a man named Jiro Nakamura, played by Yu Fujiki. This is the guy. If you watch the movie, you'll know this guy as the person who's always walking around with an egg. Like just a regular, like not the Mothra egg, just a regular hard-boiled egg. And he is amazing. I love every scene that he's in. Like, he's not only funny, like on his own, but he also has good banter with pretty much everyone else. Like, every scene he's in, I just start smiling, because he's just so ridiculous. Like, he's just walking around this newspaper office, and he's just eating eggs. Like, it's so bizarre. But he's also kind of important to the story in a way, because he's the one who comes up with the idea of getting Mothra to fight Godzilla. So in a weird way, he's kind of relevant to the plot. I mean, they could have written around that and just had one of the other characters get that idea, but I think it's so funny that they gave basically a big point of the story to just like the comic relief character. I just think that's so great. So overall, Jiro Nakamura, amazing character, 10 out of 10. He makes the movie like, he gives the movie like a point on the total score. I'm not joking. He's fantastic. Now, moving on to the kaiju, away from the humans and to the monsters. Godzilla is here, of course, and he destroys stuff, which is always fun. Like I mentioned, Godzilla does feel a little bit forced into the movie. However, once he does show up, I mean, he just starts wrecking stuff, and as always, it's super fun to watch. Though I have to say, I don't love the suit design here. It ain't terrible. I'll say that it isn't nearly one of the worst Godzilla suits out there. But I don't know, man, something about the brow just doesn't sit right with me. But overall, it's not a bad suit. It's just not as great as what came before it or what came after. So yeah. But for the most part, Godzilla, pretty awesome as always. Now as for Mothra, Mothra is a kaiju that I really like on her own. I've always liked her design, I've always liked the concept of her being this more like gentle and more classically heroic and truly good kaiju. But if there's one thing I have never really been a big fan of, it's fight scenes, which include Mothra, because most of the time she's just like flying around flapping her wings. Like, the fight scenes are fun, sure, but like, for the most part, they're not super memorable. Like, they're entertaining when you watch them in the movie, but it's nothing extraordinary. And that really comes down to the fact that they can't do too much with the Mothra, like, puppets. You know, they can do more with something like Mechagodzilla or King Ghidorah, because those are actual suits in these movies. But Mothra's just a puppet, so I understand why the fight scenes aren't that great. But the kaiju fights are still fun enough, so I'll give the movie that. But overall, I don't think Mothra's ever really been an interesting fighter. Maybe besides in Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019. But other than that, she's a great kaiju, but maybe not the most fun one to see in action scenes. And there you go, that's my hot take for the video. However, all of this is okay, because this movie has the Skeleturtle. You know, the skeleton turtle that just randomly shows up in the middle of the film? Like, he, or she, I don't know, makes up for all the shortcomings in this movie. I'm just saying. Like, that thing, that, I don't even, it's not technically a kaiju, but it's a creature, so I'm including it here. The Skeleturtle and Jiro Nakamura improve this movie tenfold. Just saying. They are amazing. Alright, anyways, enough of that. As for the music, I don't really have much to say here. I mean, the music is great, as you would expect, coming from Akira Ifukube. Like, it has the mystical and whimsical music that you'd expect from a Mothra movie, but then it also has the intense and chilling music that you'd expect from a Godzilla movie. Like, it's the best from both worlds. You really can't get it better than this. So, like, I really can't complain about the music. The score is just really solid. Like, what am I supposed to say? It's iconic, it fits the movie, it has a good amount of our variety. It's just fantastic overall. Music, really great. And then for other things I want to talk about, there really aren't any, actually. I think this is actually the first time in the Tripel-G-Cast that I haven't had like anything extra to say. I think I mentioned everything I wanted to talk about here, so yeah, I guess that means we can just jump over into the conclusion. And overall, this is certainly a fun time. It has an alright story, a well-handled message, decent characters, and fun kaiju stuff, and a great score. I just wish it could have had slightly better kaiju fights. I wish it had also incorporated Godzilla into the plot better. But overall, this movie is really good. It's better than I remember, at least. And also, it did a lot for the Godzilla franchise. And it did build the groundwork for Godzilla movies after it, so you definitely have to respect it for that. So overall, I'm going to give Mothra vs. Godzilla an 8 out of 10. Really good, actually, and it goes up from 1 point from last time I watched it. So yeah, overall, really solid Godzilla film. And it has the Skeleturtle and the Eggman. So I mean, come on, you can't beat that. Seriously. Now, anyways, yeah, that's it for this Tripel-G-Cast, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already and you're enjoying my content, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications for whenever I upload a new video. And also, comment down below if you've seen Muffer vs. Godzilla. Be sure to tell me what you think about it. Alright, anyways guys, that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!